everybody, we all know that there is a very dire need of disruption in the drug discovery to discover, develop and bring therapies to market at a much faster pace in order to defeat complex and incurable diseases such as cancer. Now, clinical researchers usually requires real-world data of both patients to realize its full potential. But historically, researchers and patients have always been disconnected for centuries due to a lack of trust. Now, the future will witness an emergence of healthcare data and service marketplace like the Amrit ecosystem that are built on principles of transparency, interoperability, anonymity, security and compliance, keeping the patient at the heart of the solution. So to tell us more, we're very happy to have with us Ashwin Rathod, co-CEO and co-founder of Amrit AG. Can we give him a big round of applause, please?
Hi, I'm Ashwin. Is this okay? Audible? Okay. So I just warned him actually that I will speak a bit loud. So will this work or not? So I'm just checking. So I'm Ashwin and I represent Amrit AG. So we are a patient real world data marketplace and also a service marketplace. Okay, looks like some cheering happening for me outside. Now what does that mean? By doing that, thank you so much. And what does that mean when we such heavy worded words, patient data marketplaces, service marketplaces? By doing this, we are kind of like enabling what we call decentralized science. And I will just walk you through how such marketplaces and real world data exchanges will probably happen in the future of Web3. Thank God, thanks to Web3, now this is possible. I wanted to just speak a little bit about this one very personal thing that happened to me. My friend's papa once got diagnosed with an oral cancer. Now, what we did was to go to Google. I was super confident. I thought like I can find some good research material. I will find the treatments. I will find the experts on Google and we can do something about it. That was my ego. I go to Google. All I find is misinformation, disinformation, people running propaganda. How many of you people remember remdesivir during COVID-19? How many of you remember chloroquine being used for treating COVID-19? Massive disinformation. These are propagandas run by a few bunch of people, affecting millions of lives, including people dying. This happened to us. We ended up wasting so much of critical time and eventually uncle passed away. However, we donated all the medical records and data for research back then. That was the key moment when I started thinking about a solution in this direction. Anyone diagnosed with an incurable disorder, be it cancer, be it Alzheimer, Parkinson, rare genetic disorders, that's typically the path they go for. They rush to search engines, they rush to social media, and they fall prey, lose time, and it then, you know what happens. People are looking for treatments, trials, and experts for that very specific disorder they have been diagnosed with. Cancer is a very personal disorder. Even between twins having the same cancer at the same stage or type, they are worlds apart in how this disorder affects these two twins. This is a genetic disorder and a genetic cure would probably be best serving the cause as a solution. Then there is another part of the world. I just hope they're cheering for me. It's okay. We'll continue. Then there is the other side of the world. the whole medical research, the stakeholders that come into play. The problem with drug discovery today, it's super slow. It's inefficient. Conducting a clinical trial takes billions of dollars, takes a decade from ideation to bringing that therapy to the market, and more than 85% of these clinical trials fail. Most of them probably because they just cannot recruit the patient, the sample size of patients, the diversity of these kind of patients required to prove the hypothesis. This is the plight of the pharma industry today. You sometimes also find drugs. There is a fantastic book, it's $1 million drug. Some of the drugs that have been developed could cost you $1 million. Maybe they just treat a few thousand across the world. It's such a rare disorder, but the cure would be too costly. Guess why? Now you remember the billions of dollars being spent and so on and so. Users want to understand what are their options. And currently they don't have this mechanism through which they can get there. It has to be comprehensive. It has to be unbiased. And more importantly, accurate. That is the need. Often at times, a second opinion helps. This helped one of my friends. She was diagnosed with breast cancer, but unfortunately misdiagnosed by the type of breast cancer. She was undergoing a treatment regimen, a very harsh chemotherapy regimen. I kind of convinced her to take this time, a second opinion, and I connected them to an expert, a tumor board in Germany. They found out that the treatment is actually kind of hurting rather than helping. And now, with that in mind, she's fully recovered. She goes to the gym and now bicycling and such because the correct treatment regimen after second opinion helped her. Over 80% of the people feel that they are not being informed about treatment, research happening in that particular disease, and about experts. That is the phenomenon. That's the current situation. It's pathetic. A lot of people, close to 88% of the people who go for a second opinion actually change their treatment regimen. Very interesting. Close to 90% of them change their regimen after session. And we need to do this together, bringing all of the stakeholders. It cannot be just one, like a patient strata, or just the doctors, or just the medical researchers. It has to be all of them. It has to be a collective to be done together. To trust or not to trust, that is the real question. So don't trust. Call for a proof. This is the modern era. These are some of the most basic underlying principles of Web3. There is no need to trust. Call for a proof. So whenever a patient is trying to license this super sensitive medical records and healthcare data, they need to know who is asking, what are the credentials? Is this a legitimate organization or a person or a researcher who is asking for the data? Does that person or an organization have valid credentials? Can they even take care of such data? Can they protect this kind of a data? Do they have the systems in place? This has to be ensured. Ensured in the sense proven. Then comes purpose. Why is this data being asked for? What will this requester do with it? And then we need to prove such things or bind a way, a mechanism to bind by the purpose. Okay? Precision. How much of a data do you really need? A report typically has so many data points, but only a few are useful. Is the person, the requesting person, asking for precisely the need to know data points? Or is it like, give me the data and I will take care of it and forget it? No. That has to be established. Time. For how long? How long is the data needed? Will it be deleted? What happens in the lifetime of the data? How do you guarantee that data will not be used for some other purpose in future? These are the questions we should ask for. These are the questions we need to prove. That small icon is about cookies. At one point of time, all of us were so lazy, we were saying accept all cookies. But now, when GDPR is in place, they are forced to show you purpose. They are forced to tell you how long is this cookie going to be with them. What kind of data is being captured? What is the purpose? Correct? So remember that and correlate with a cookie. The solution for such is the need of a marketplace bound by zero knowledge proofs, decentralized ID, verifiable credentials, time-bound encryption, sometimes even like the top-notch encryption. Okay? If we could get such a thing, maybe that could be a potential solution. The future of such healthcare-based marketplaces will involve these concepts, these underlying principles of Web 3.0. And better if decentralized. Let the patients take control of the data, maybe also drive drug discovery directly. That's what we are trying to do, by the way. So it's a simple strategy. What do? This is what we did. We first built an award-winning awesome app. Okay? It attracted millions of users organically. A lot of stakeholders joined us. Then we built a community around it. Okay, so simple. Looks simple, but super difficult to execute. Building a community of millions of users and like millions of them also contributing their data, including genome sequencing data. This is like super sensitive stuff. That kind of a community. And then going ahead, we want to be giving the power back to them. We don't want to hold on to this one. The best companies in the world actually follow these 3 steps. It's the community which will shape this kind of marketplaces. That's the best way to do it. Most efficient. Contributing directly that one's cause is at rest. And it has to be sustainable. It's not like, you do something and then things collapse after a few months. In our case, we can scale the type of indications, geographies, different types of data, different types of data points. Think of a waveform, ECG. Think of an audio, sonogram. Think of a video, maybe a surgical procedure, apart from just tables and texts. This adds to the volume. This adds to the diversity. And that will bring more stakeholders. Stakeholders who need this data. Stakeholders who can better process this data, better than us. And they can provide services. We can't do everything. So we got to open it up. And that will bring in more and more users again. And this is how it sustains itself. We launched our first app. This is that award-winning app. It's a cancer patient-facing app. We had to do 2 examples, not a singular, just 2. And now there are 15 to 20 apps on the ecosystem everyone is building on. It covers 50 plus cancer types. Every month, we can add a new cancer type. Under one cancer type could be hundreds and hundreds of specific cancer indications. We were able to scale to 29 countries, multiple languages across the world. And now we have 1.6 million patients contributing their very sensitive data to this ecosystem, all secure, anonymous, bound by the principles of Web3, total control in the hands of the patient, starting from consent, starting from hiding anonymous information, personal identifiable information, So the mix is, you need AI to churn through billions of pages, provide information. You need a blockchain-based setup, a Web3-based setup to provide security, transparency, and all that follows. But if you could decentralize this and make this as a collective so that everyone can contribute, you have done the job. That's where we are headed for. That's where we are really headed for. So that the patients can now contribute to humanity's health and longevity. That's the story. Not me, or not this organization, not one, but the collective. They drive drug discovery, they drive healthcare together, moving ahead. Patients can establish ownership of the data. They can provide consent, they can provide time-based. Their data is verifiable. They can prove that they are the owners and the data is correct. They can give time-bound access. Aggregators are playing a key role. Hospitals, labs relay this data to requesters. Requesters are typically personas of researchers, CRO, pharma, apps. And now rather than going through acquiring unethical means, or if some hacker has exploited a system of hospital and selling data online, they can now follow something which is ethical, privacy first, with the consent of the patient, and give the incentives back to the patients when they can use that incentives to lower the cost of such treatments. Think of cancer, it's a huge cost. Think of it, not many insurance, probably rarest of the rarest cases where an insurance covers it. And coming from India, I understand it's a nightmare. People just can't afford it. This is the stack. You have AI sitting there to churn all of this data, process the pipelines to extract information, structure this information. It has to be guided with some, regulatory compliance. You need ISO 27001. You need AES 256-bit. Just a hint, AES 256-bit encryption is used by the National Security Advisor. So if at all the US President wanted to pass on a super sensitive message to the general of the army, AES 256-bit would be used. That's the communication protocol. We use this to encrypt each and every data point of the patient. It's quantum proof. The security audit ensures that it cannot be hacked. The system cannot be hacked. And we also make statements. There are proofs. Don't trust me. Just go to the website. There are so much of proofs by reputed organizations who will tell why this thing will work, why this thing is secure. On top of it is the exchange. Using data and services, people build apps on such kind of exchange. And in the end, drug discovery is accelerated. Well, we have been able to achieve quite a few things. This is just a snapshot. Maybe it's too technical. But the race is on. There is so much more to do. This is a bit on the tokenomics. I don't want to be too much on the DeFi angle of it. But to give you a snapshot, it will be a utility token. We are planning to launch it by the end of the year, hopefully also in Q3. And there is a huge pool of incentives for every stakeholder. That's the core team. And just a sneak peek, Gunjan, my senior from IIT, also advises reputed think tanks. He's ex-BCG, ex-EY. Dr. Thomas Lardner is the biggest lawyer when it comes to financial law or crypto law in Switzerland. That's the Crypto Valley. Ole Wiesinger is the most well-known oncologist, probably the best in Switzerland. Everyone knows Ole Wiesinger. Lakshmi is my co-CEO and Nadine is the Chief Operating Officer. That's my sweet small team. Of course, there are a lot of hardworking people spread across geographies who contribute to the development. These are the medical experts who guide us. They are the ones who ensure every data point is correct, is as per the guidelines. It's accurate, comprehensive, unbiased. It's super sensitive. We are super serious about the job we do. This is just the most dirtiest slide. This slide just cannot accommodate all the logos. So I put some exemplary names here. And yes, if you are attending ETH Paris, you will find a great announcement by Polygon where we are developing this using their Polygon ID system. We are expanding it to healthcare. So if you are in ETH Paris coming July, you will get a sneak peek of what we are doing with Polygon. And yeah, so there is an app ecosystem, there is a drug discovery angle to it. Researching organizations, pharma, publication houses, think of it, we partner. We also partner with governments, because the best way to bring about this policy change is to speak with these policy makers, these decision makers, who will enforce such security measures, such transparency measures across the whole healthcare in a country. Hospitals and people can have biases, but policies go for decades and decades ahead. So that's also there. Small note about how famous we are. I don't want to brag too much about it. We have been covered by some of the most influential media there. Again, this is the second dirty slide because I couldn't fit all of those here. There's a lot more than this. Statutory disclaimer, so unfortunately there is only 25 seconds. I can take one question. If there is a question, please come. Or I'm always there, booth number 68. I'm sorry for people. It was looking like a Burger King restaurant with a queue. So I had to force everyone, come. It's not a Burger King restaurant. Ask your questions. So, well, you can catch me there as well. Okay. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me a chance to speak. I really appreciate it.